got sticks for real. We looking out for the opposition, we don't do this for mass appeal. Don't make me blast it still. I put in work, no Vladimir. They want me to lose, but I can't. Mama shed like 1,000 tears. I can't do that shit to waste. I pull up in Mercedes. Next year, you gon' see me pull up in the race. All I do is ball hard. Mama told me, boy, make sure you tie up your legs. Hey, when I was down.
What's good, folks? It's WARFRAME here with an Equinox video. I call this the Gloom Equinox. Gloom Equinox, because I'll be using Gloom. It's quite big brain. Anyway, let's take a look at her abilities. So we'll start off with our first ability, Metamorphosis. If you did not know, Equinox has two forms, night and day, and Metamorphosis allows you to switch between the two. And when you switch between the two, you get a bonus to that form, basically a buff. So in her day form, you get a movement speed multiplier and a weapon damage multiplier, which only applies to your guns, and it is additive to your base damage. In night form, you get increased armor and shields, which are also additive to your base values. And I replaced her rest and rage ability with Gloom. Gloom slows down enemies within the aura and give you lifesteal. So pretty much any instance of damage will actually heal you. We did leave out Pacify and Provoke. Why? Because we'll be using the day form of this ability, which is Provoke, which gives me a 39% bonus power strength to any ability. Think of it like energy conversion. When you pick up an energy orb, you get bonus power strength for the next ability cast. So this pretty much works the same. So this will add on to my Gloom, which currently is 69%. Nice. And Gloom is a channeling ability, meaning it will drain energy per second, and the energy drain increases with more enemies within the aura, and it caps out at 10 enemies, so no worries. And our second channeling ability is going to be her fourth ability, Mend and Maim. We're going to be using both of these forms. Mend will give you shields back with enemies killed within the aura, so it's like easy shield gating and easy healing without having to cast any abilities. While in her day form, Maim, you'll have enemies take /DOTs. Basically, it will stun enemies, have them staggered, and this animation of them being staggered is prolonged thanks to the slow effects of Gloom. Yes, every animation that enemies have to carry out will be greatly reduced thanks to Gloom. And what allows us to switch between the two forms without losing its buildup is the augment energy transfer. So we can switch between the two forms without ending the channel of the ability. Because without this augment, if you do switch between the two, you would have to recast the ability. And Equinox's casting animations are horrible, really slow. So this saves us on time and energy. All right, here we are in Steel Path. If you look at my aura, I do have growing power, so you know what that means. Apply a status effect on an enemy and you get 25% bonus power strength. We're gonna start off with our day form because we want to cast our Pacify and Provoke first and apply a status effect on a target, so we get a lot of power strength. Okay, boom. Now we get that increased power strength on Gloom. We're in our night form right now, and as you can see, when we kill, we get shields and we get over shields on the top right corner right there. Switching to our day form, we get to have enemies take those /DOTs, and that animation will be prolonged thanks to Gloom. And enemies affected by cold get their movement speed and animations slowed even more. And right there, that's Arcane Eruptions. So when you pick up energy orbs, it will knock down enemies. And look how long they have to take before they get back up. Such a disgusting combo. Switch to day form, proc those bleeds, get bonus damage on our weapons, more movement speed. Switch to night, regenerate our shields. But unfortunately, unlike silence, you cannot refresh this stun unless you switch back and forth from night and day. Okay, we're gonna go to night form and switch back to day. They get restunned. That's the only way you can refresh the stun. It's by switching between the two thanks to energy transfer. So one day on stream, a viewer came to me with a Gloom Equinox setup, and I saw that it had a lot of negative duration, very high in efficiency. I'm like, but you're losing the bonus buffs on the first ability when you switch between the two, because the first ability also scales off duration. So I wanted to find a way to balance out the two, have decent energy income without tanking your duration that hard. And upon seeing this build, I thought to myself, probably As Invasions did a video about this already. And guess what? He did. He did. And it was actually the same build as Invasions was using with the negative duration and high efficiency. I'm like, you know what? Let's do something similar but different. There is one accolade that might be annoying for you, and that's violence. Where is she? But this is not violence. Wasn't the best of kills, but hey. All right, here we are in the simulacrum. You just saw that little showcase in Steel Path. Now let's take a look at the builds. Starting off with Equinox herself. In the aura, we have growing power for that 25% power strength increase when we proc a status effect on a target. Prime sure-footed. Spending less time on your butt is a huge DPS increase. This helps with knockdowns and staggers. It is so good to have this. If you don't have this, use handspring instead. It's way better than not using it at all. Okay, rolling guard for the 3 seconds of invulnerability and status cleansing. This was very helpful when you want to reposition yourself or engage into something hectic. Prime flow and equilibrium paired up with arcane energize and the Zeneric focus school. Why are we running all of these together? Is because we have negative efficiency. Yeah, we're going to be draining quite a lot on Gloom. We have 7.5 energy drain on 10 enemies, and here we have that 3.5. It can get a bit hectic, so if you don't want to run Zeneric, you can always replace Arca Reach with Streamline, and you can use whatever focus school you want. But this one is tailored towards Zeneric. Why Zeneric? Is because Zeneric has a juicy little passive where it grants you more energy on pickup. Another great thing, if you didn't know, Equinox has a nice passive, which is pretty much exactly like Equilibrium, but lower in value. So we do have decent amount of energy income, hence why the negative efficiency. Prime continuity just to help with the drain even more and to give us more duration on Metamorphosis. Blind Rage is our main power strength mod. We're going to pair this up with Growing Power and Provoke, which is the Dayform version of this ability. Arcane Eruption is a great crowd control tool that pairs up with Gloom, because when you pick up an energy orb, you will knock down enemies within 30 meters, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it doesn't state it here, which is annoying. So you pick up an energy orb and knocks down enemies, and that animation is of course prolonged thanks to Gloom. All right, now that you've gotten the base build of the Gloom Equinox, let me show you something slightly different that's going to give you a lot of juicy crits. Well, a decent amount to be exact. We only changed up 2 things, and that's replacing the aura with Combat Discipline and running Arcane Avenger. What's this going to do? Well, Combat Discipline will have you deal damage to your health and heal allies. But since we're dealing damage to the health, that's going to trigger Arcane Avenger, and that's going to give us that amazing crit chance. And that's going to give us that amazing 45% crit chance on everything. So that's all you can change. The original build was just Growing Power and Arcane Eruption. We just switched out to Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger. And what type of weapons do I suggest using? You can use whatever weapons you want, but I like to add that little extra, and I'm using the Bubonico here. The Bubonico is pretty nice. Why? Because of its alternate fire. I do have it modded for cold, which pairs up with the bonus toxin on this weapon, and that cold on the radial attack will slow down enemies even more thanks to Gloom. We'll have our base damage multiplier coming from Primary Merciless, and it gives us that reload speed and ammo max. Since we have all our base damage coming from Merciless, we don't have to put Prime Point Blank because these two are going to be additive to each other. We will use other multipliers, and since we're building it for bleeds thanks to Hunter Munition, we're going to be using a primed cleanse mod. This is a faction mod. It'll allow you to double dip on those bleeds and multiply your initial damage as well. Multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage, and galvanized savvy. Frigid Blast is going to be our only elemental mod. Without this, we're just going to have toxin. So we combine it with a cold mod, we get viral. And the Excellence can be whatever you want, to be honest. If you want more crits, use Vigilante Supplies, absolutely. Taking a look at our primer. In this situation, I'll be using the Epitaph. Why the Epitaph? Because it can force proc cold, which will also slow down enemies. Basically, we're using this to proc status effect so we can deal more damage with our melee, since it will use condition overload. Multi-shot and the dodge utility, multi-shot and fire rate. You don't want too much fire rate, because having too much fire rate will turn it into a fully charged shot, which is a single target fire mode. We don't want that. We want the quick fire, which is the large AoE. Modded it for viral and heat. If you want more viral weighting, you can use Ice Storm, so you can proc viral a lot more often. But since we're using this as an overall utility weapon, then Augur Seeker is your other choice. Why? Because of its passive, and it gives you that minuscule status duration. And for the melee, I ran the OHMA, and since it has base electric, all you have to do is put Prime Fever Strike. No need for Weeping Wounds because we're dealing raw damage with this. Now, I know I'm definitely going to have people ask, oh, what was that CHAKKHURR build that gave you lots of red crits? Was it with Arcane Avenger? No, it wasn't with Arcane Avenger at all. CHAKKHURR already has crazy amounts of crit chance, and we're just using one mod to increase the crit chance to crazy levels. So my Akuva CHAKKHURR is bonus toxin, and all I did was put rhyme rounds to give us, and since this weapon deals AoE forced impact, we'll be using internal bleeding, which is more consistent than running hard to munitions. Galvanized scope for the red crits. To be honest, you don't need this. You're better off using bladed rounds for more damage, but of course, you know, red crits are more satisfying to look at. With the multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage, Prime Firestorm for a bigger explosion, Bane mod so we can deal more damage, and this damage is multiplied on the initial hit, and double dips with the DOTs, which is going to be bleeds. Our base damage is coming from our Primary Merciless. Do not forget this. This is where our base damage comes from. So if you're wondering, hey, how come I'm not doing the same damage? I have all the same mods but no arcane. Well, that's the reason. And Vigilante Supply for the ammo mutation and bonus crit chance. Since we have Equilibrium, I'll be using the Panzer Volpaphyla with the two synth mods. Synth Deconstruct will have enemies drop health orbs if they're injured by the cats. It doesn't matter if they're actually killed or just damaged. And that will be easily done with Viral Quills, since this will spread viral spores everywhere. And Synth Fiber will always allow us to pick up health orbs even if we're full HP. And Equilibrium will convert that into energy, since we're already a max HP. But then again, if you want to use any weapons you want, you can. I just tend to use this little combo here for some added AoE slow. But if you want better TTK and KPS, definitely take something like the Kuva Zar, Kuva Brahma. Crazy AoE and crazy amounts of kills. All right, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. And if you did, feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.